So John, man, great to have you here.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Let's go back in time a little bit. What was your first guitar memory?
My mom bought me a '77 Stratocaster. Van Halen started coming in the mix, so I was like, God, I want a Kramer. And I was like, well, maybe I can trade the Stratocaster in for this Kramer. And before, I met Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he signed my Stratocaster. He said, you know, John, play with feeling, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I was like, well, I got this cool Stratocaster with this guy Stevie Ray Vaughan's autograph.
How did you get Stevie Ray Vaughan to sign your guitar?
He did like an autograph session, you know? So I traded the guitar.
Gave the mojo away.
I gave it away for a Focus Kramer. It wasn't even a real Kramer.
Oh, wow.
So some guy has this incredible Stratocaster with Stevie Ray Vaughan's autograph on it. Now I love, you know, Telecasters, and my dream and accomplishment, I'm trying to get one from every year. So
right. Let's see, that's like at least 50 guitars or something.
I have like 86 guitars, but I have probably 30-something odd Telecasters. So
why Telecaster? What's your obsession? They are great guitars.
They are great guitars, and when I was little, I loved, you know, Keith Richards, and I loved country music too. I didn't know anything else other than that Keith Richards cool Blackguard, you know.
Tele-Custom.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool. And I wanted to get one so bad, but I never did. But later in life, when I started playing with David Lee Roth, I was like, I'm going to buy a Telecaster, you know? And it felt so comfortable to me, just like a Strat feels comfortable to you. Yeah. It just felt so good to me. And that's when I started, you know, really getting into them. It was later in life, but it's like, oh my God, that's all I played. Right. Even when I was endorsed with Ibanez, I would play Telecasters.
Right. So you got out of Michigan, you came to LA. Was that something you did on your own?
I wanted to come out to LA, and I actually did right after high school, and I came out with the drummer from Megadeth. And I was like, oh my God, this was so cool, because I love Megadeth, and the guy lived in Detroit, and I was like, this is awesome, we're driving to California.
Came out to move here or to do a gig with him? Or
no, I knew him because he was from Michigan, and he's like, well, I have to go back to California if you want to drive, and I was like in my Thunderbird, and we were both driving to California. It was an uphill battle, but I started doing sessions right away. And
how did you get into that? How did you break into that?
I was doing God, these are such funny stories, and they're all
That's
true.
What we want to know.
They're not altered at all. I was doing this, I had this band called
We're going to check on them, by the way.
Yeah, I had this band called Alligator Soup, and we were like playing these clubs, and I was doing like this crazy guitar stuff, like, you know, like that kind of stuff, and like everyone's like, oh, you got to see this guitar player, it's fun. So Rudy Sarzo from Whitesnake, which Whitesnake was like the Beatles back then. I was like, oh man, Rudy Sarzo's here. No joke, there were 3 people, Rudy, his wife, and this manager lady in Gazzarri's, when it's still called Gazzarri's. And there was no one there. I was like, oh no, this is terrible. And we were doing our intro, and the singer bumps his head on like something, and all this blood's coming down. And the singer goes, guitar solo, and I'm playing this guitar solo because he's fixing his head. Right. And Rudy Sarzo was like, this is the greatest show I've ever seen. You know, he thought it was all planned. Right. But so that's how I, you know, my first, you know, and I met Irving Azoff and Trudi Green, and I started doing all these sessions.
What kind of music were you doing?
It was like that, you know, 80s, you know, metal stuff. Cool. So I was doing, you know, all that stuff, and then I was doing these sessions for these people, and I would do them for so cheap. You know, because I didn't know. I was like, I don't know.
You were paying them.
Yeah, really. So I would do like, you know, Rick Springfield or Wilson Phillips and John Wetton and Robin Zander and all these people for like $100 and like a sandwich or something. They'd be like, here you go, kid. And I would like, thanks, man. And that was a lot of money to me because I had nothing, you know. But, and it just started to evolve from there, and doing all the, like the Baywatch and the commercials and the you know, all like the movie stuff, and I was like, man, maybe I should be charging a little more money, you know? So with this interview, I did it for a Fender polish rag, so you can see my business sense has gone up a little
Fender
bit.
polish rag. I know you played with Katie Lang. What was that like?
It was probably the best tour I've ever been on, because it was, you know, just great people, really nice people, like genuine nice people. Like on the rock tours, they're like,
everybody's aggro, huh?
Everybody's aggro, but you know, that tour, it's like everybody was so sweet and so calm, and everybody was like really nice to each other and were faithful to their wives and like the whole bit. And it was just a really cool, different experience.
What were you asked to play on that tour? Like, what would you bring? You wouldn't bring your Marshall stack.
No, I actually brought a combo that was in a, like it was in a road case, and it was just mics. So it was so quiet on stage, I couldn't hear anything.
So it would come through your monitor.
Yeah, in-ears.
And how did you get that gig, being known as a rock and roll guitar? Like, how did you get a gig playing with Katie Lang?
I went on the audition, and there were like literally 200 guitar players, and I learned all the little lines and all the little keyboard lines, and you know, it was all in open tuning, so I would learn it in all these weird different ways. But I knew them so well, I knew the songs so well, and I knew all the little parts, so I kind of just got the gig that way. And I knew how to play the, you know, the country stuff as well, so it all worked out really well.
So let that be a lesson to everybody.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah, exactly. Just practice, because you never know what you're going to be called to do.
Right.
I was in New York, and I was at the club where Les Paul plays.
Right.
And he said, oh, cool, well, you should come up and play. And I was like, oh, my God, you know, because these guys knew all the standards.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was like, you guys know Highway to Hell type of thing?
What did you get up there and play? Do you remember?
It was like, they were doing like stuff like... But then, during that, I would like go... you know, that kind of stuff. And they were like, and then Les Paul was like, oh, I love that, I love that. So it kind of like was...
You showed them some metal.
So showed them some metal,
cool.
You know? So it was like, I think he really liked it, because everybody else was, you know, doing their bebop thing, which was cool. So it was one of the greatest nights of my life, for sure.
It was really nice meeting you, and thanks so much for coming, man.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, John.